This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, I would like to call the Plan Commission meeting to order for Tuesday, September 3rd, 2024. Roll call, please, Marcus.
Mary Krajewski,
Here.
Gary Paul,
Here.
Chris Axelson,
Here.
Jay Krieger,
Here.
Mike Schnowski, Skivington, I'm sorry. Mike Skivington,
Here.
Corey Campbell,
Here.
James Allen.
Present.
Please stand for the pledge. And please remember our men and women throughout the world in uniform. I have no changes to the agenda. I need a motion to approve, please.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion and a second. Motion by Chris Atkinson, seconded by Jay Krieger to approve the agenda as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed. Motion carried. Number 5, action on the Plan Commission meeting minutes of August 7th, 2024.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion by Jay Krieger, seconded by Chris Atkinson to approve those minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed. Motion carried. Number 6, comments from the public must be limited to items not on the agenda, must state your name and address. You're limited to 5 minutes. The board's role is to listen and not discuss the item. Personnel issues cannot be discussed nor individuals named, and the board is not able to take action at this meeting. Are there any comments from anybody in the audience on items not on tonight's agenda? Any comments about items not on tonight's agenda? Hearing none, we're moving on. Number 7, written communications or announcements. I have none. Does anybody have any? Okay, we're moving on. Number 8, action items. 8A, consider, discuss, act on a preliminary planned unit development PUD request for a multi-use residential development on parcel VA-L333-2 Alice Pagels LLC property. Karen.
All right, thank you. I will share my screen and bring up the site plan. There we go. All right. As indicated in the agenda item, the request is for a preliminary plan unit development, or PUD, for the property indicated in the site plan before you. What you see here to the north is West Main Avenue. Arts Lane extends to the south but does not connect into the subdivision due to existing development constraints. There is a proposed access point off of South Ridge, Pagels Place, as well as Ponds Edge Court to the south. The property is currently zoned R1, one-family residence. It is used for agricultural purposes currently. The requested planned unit development is to allow for the proposed mix of residential uses that you see before you. In summary, what you see are smaller footprint single-family homes. As you see here, this loop road as well as the entranceway. Similar to the Woods Edge development immediately to the south of this development. There are proposed townhomes, so 2-story townhomes, similar to some that are located in De Pere currently, and I will have photos of those again just for reference. And then as well as 4 16-unit multifamily apartment buildings on the far east end of the development up against the storm pond and the Ashwaubenon Creek floodway. The planned unit development is intended again to go over the top of the R1 one-family residence zoning. So the underlying zoning will remain the same, with the planned unit development overlay providing the flexibility necessary to allow for this mix of residential uses as proposed. The actual ordinance that specifies the variations or deviations from the standard zoning will be prepared for the final planned unit development when that comes forward. As mentioned, this is a preliminary planned unit development. It's meant to find or identify any major red flags that we as a community are aware of. I want to make sure we relay to the developer before they go forward with the final planned unit development, we're gonna get more detailed, engineering, landscaping, lighting, stormwater management, so on and so forth. In terms of the process, the preliminary planned unit development did go to site plan review committee this afternoon. It's at plan commission before you this afternoon, and then it goes to village board at the end of the month, again, for the preliminary planned unit development. Should village board approve the preliminary planned unit development, at that point, again, the developer goes back, refines the information, builds up the civil plans, stormwater plans, so on and so forth. It comes back through the formal process again with site plan review committee, plan commission, and a village board. Before village board action, though, there is a formal public hearing that will take at that time for, again, the final planned unit development. I should mention, following this meeting, I will be sending out a letter to neighbors in this area informing them of the village board meeting at the end of the month, and as well as the final PUD process that's subsequent to the village board meeting at the end of this month. In terms of the couple designs, we have here a couple photos from the developer. The top photo right here is a townhome example that's currently in De Pere. You may be familiar with it. As well as then the bottom photo here is the single-family home, again, very similar to the Woods Edge development, which is very successful development about probably 10 years ago now. Apartment buildings, again, 16-unit, kind of standard development with balconies and patios as indicated. So again, these will be refined as part of the final development. In terms of recommended conditions of approval, since it's preliminary, a lot of these are really just kind of heads up at this point, but they are important to put in the record, including submittal of a final PUD packet, inclusion of sidewalks on both sides of all public streets as required under our code. All parking areas, landscape islands, and drive areas are to have curbing, either conventional curbing or rolled. Screen any rooftop or ground-mounted mechanical units visible from the property boundaries, and I apologize for the typo here. This was a copy and paste from a previous one. Property boundaries, or should be Pagel's Place, public right-of-way, future streets, so on and so forth. Use of fully concealed fasteners for exterior wall panels. Approval of a development agreement between the developer and the village. That's to go over all of the improvements needed to take place, including streets, utilities, so on and so forth. Meet all applicable requirements of the Ashwaubenon site plan review and all other applicable village ordinances. From engineering, submittal of a detailed utility and civil plans with the final PUD packet. Submittal of detailed stormwater management and erosion control plans with the final PUD packet. Provide adequate access easement to the stormwater pond. They note, move it to the north to avoid the woods and steep slope. From public safety, coordinate with Ashwaubenon Public Safety regarding FDC and key box locations for the multifamily units. Coordinate with Ashwaubenon Public Safety regarding fire hydrant locations and internal turning radii for the multifamily units. From forestry, submittal of a detailed landscape plan and planting schedule with the final PUD. From bicycle and pedestrian, identification of bicycle parking locations for the apartment buildings, and the recommendation to meet the standards of the Association of Pedestrian and Bicycle Professionals. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, we do have representatives of the development team in the audience as well, if you have questions specific for them.
Does anybody have any questions?
I just want to know when it's 8 o'clock in the morning, how much traffic you're going to have coming out of there. That's the first thing that jumped out at me, because if you're going, I assume this is south, out of that area in about the midpoint, you're going on to Misty Meadows Court, private road. You got a cul-de-sac on this Pond's Edge Court, and I don't know why you would be taking a left going to Woods Edge Way. So that street there, I don't know why it's there. And I can just see all of this traffic coming out one side. If you get the other road there through that, I assume it's a farm that's against West Main Ave, yeah, then it opens up a little bit. But otherwise, you've got a hell of a lot of traffic going, I guess it's west.
Misty Meadow Court is identified as a private road.
Misty Meadows Court is a private road.
Is there gonna be any kind of indication discouraging people from this development from going that way?
I understand it, is there signage on Misty Meadows Court?
Yes, there is, but it
Identifies
doesn't make any difference. The people down there can't read.
That I can't tell. You know, I think it's certainly, you know, incumbent upon the developer to make sure when people purchase lots, they understand that Misty Meadow Court is a private road as indicated by the signage. So I guess that's probably the best approach on it at this point. In terms of other access, there's a future road, you know, Mike, as
That makes a
indicated
big
to the north.
difference Once you get that road in,
Yep.
no doubt about it.
Yep. Until then, you're correct, traffic will primarily exit the subdivision out to South Ridge Road via Pagels Place.
We can only hope. Because I know that when Woods Edge was being built, all the construction equipment came on Misty Meadow Court. They also can't read. And is there anything that the village can do to prevent that? Because it's a private road.
I guess it'd be complaint driven. You know, if there are complaints, we certainly can talk to public safety about enforcement on that. I guess, Joel, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think from a development standpoint, so when we work with the developer and the actual construction of lots, the construction of utilities, roads, we can require all traffic to come down through, I think that's Pagels Court, or Pagels Place, excuse me. So we can require that. We can work with the developer, whoever the construction company is that's actually building the units, and encourage, obviously, traffic to come in that way. That is going to be the most efficient way to get into that subdivision, is off of Pagels Place. There will be people that will occasionally come through that subdivision. I don't know that we're going to be able to restrict it outright, but we can certainly encourage, when the home construction activity is happening, that they use Pagels Place. Again, with the development of the subdivision, we can require that as a condition.
What's the time frame on the road going out to Maine?
I'll probably defer to the development team on that one.
Could I have you come up and state your name and address for the record, please?
Good evening, Craig Kastner, 1500 Waterford Drive in the village of Ashwaubenon. So Jay, to ask your question, you know, we have talked to the property owner, but that's not part of our purchase.
Right.
So, you know, it's really kind of driven by his interest. I couldn't speak directly to when that could happen, if at all. The connectivity to the rest of the subdivision is kind of interesting. Normally when, at least from my historical experience, when municipalities put in developments, they want to have connectivity. So the very fact, you know, Jim, that it's coming through that subdivision is, to me, kind of ironic that it's even there. I mean, one solution could be to just have the, you know, developer take it away. If the village doesn't own it, that would be the solution. Just get rid of the, you know, connectivity to our subdivision. From the standpoint of, if I was, you know, part of the village, I may actually want it there, but I understand the dynamic that it's a private road.
I took a drive out there today, and if people go down that road, I think they'll only go down once, because they'll probably be in there for about a week and a half trying to find their way out, because it's kind of confusing. So I don't think they'll take it that way many times, but yeah, I understand your concern.
Mike, to your comment about all the people leaving, I mean, it's kind of the inherent layout of the property at this point. Whether it's R1 or you take the density and decrease it, you're still going to have a fair amount of cars going out unless Spirit Way would get developed. But if no one can go through the, you know, Mystic Meadows, then that really forces everyone out that way. I counted, I think, 8 homes that would be impacted if they went out Pagels Place, turned right, and then most logically went towards Main Street.
I'm just throwing this out there. If this is attractive as how many houses you're putting in here, Why don't you buy that guy out, whoever this person is?
We've talked to him, but at this point, in order to consummate this purchase, we need to have an idea that we can develop the property. And he's a separate selling entity. He happens to be part of the same family. It's Ed Van. He's part of the same sales group, but what I've kind of been told is at this point of his life, he's just not ready to, sell his property and move on. So this development, in theory, from a ingress-egress standpoint, is kind of trapped to his time schedule then.
You have right first refusal with them?
We don't. It's a whole separate animal, which we could address, and we could make the deals interdependent upon each other, where if one closed, the other one would close. If one didn't, then the other one didn't, but it kind of complicates things. I'm not opposed to it. I mean, we actually had Robert E. Lee illustrate it that way, thinking it made all the sense in the world to have two ways out of this. Well, three, but obviously one of them is through, private, neighborhoods.
I guess if I'm coming out of there, I want to go to West Main and get over to the highway instead of,
Going around, yeah. From the shape of the parcel, we can't, it's not a whole lot we can do. Our hands are kind of tied.
Craig, any concern about amount of snow in here? Because we got 20-foot fronts, you're gonna have a sidewalk in there. Any concerns about snow piling up in there in the winter?
Yeah, 20 foot, they're 55-foot wide lots.
Yeah.
It's gonna be similar to the existing conditions that are in there. Snow is always gonna make it a little tighter. You haven't asked why we went to 55. We tried to keep it in keeping with the neighborhood over there.
Right.
Based on the asking price of the property, it was a bit of a density function where we thought we needed more lots. And quite frankly, if, most people are paying attention to real estate pricing, it's getting expensive. So smaller homes, smaller lots are one way to kind of combat rising construction costs.
What's your early, I know this is all preliminary, Craig, but what are you thinking for those homes and for the condos?
We think they're probably, the existing ones, and I haven't seen the plans, they're not ours, but I would suspect they're 1,450 to 1,650, square feet. And I would think purchase prices on those would be lucky to be under 4, but I would say probably 4 to 5.
Okay.
So.
Just one more thing. I happen to live in Misty Meadow.
Yeah, I figured you did, John.
You probably figured that out. And it came in obviously after the developer negotiated this wonderful deal with the village where we have southern curves and narrower streets so they don't plow. And our street is declared private road. And the construction equipment that went through to Woods Edge beat the hell out of our road, and we have to maintain it, and we have to repair it, and I'm kind of concerned about the amount of traffic that's going to end up going that way.
Well, I mean, we literally, unless as a part of the process, the village is saying we have to connect, we don't need to connect. I mean, economically, from our standpoint, it's probably one more lot. Mm-hmm. So then it really comes down to how do we get out of there function. And this kind of brings it back to, Mike's point that we're going to have a lot of vehicles going past those homes on Pago's Place and exiting there. Mm-hmm. So
I think, James, from a sequencing standpoint, obviously, again, dealing with an individual general contractor in the development of the subdivision, utilities, roads, so on and so forth, that's extremely easy for us to work with the developer and make sure that construction activity is coming off of Pagel's Place. I don't have any concerns with that. I know Craig and his team and Robert and Lee are very familiar with that practice. That stub that connects to Pond's Edge Court to create that connectivity, I think public safety would be genuinely interested in maintaining that access. I think having that singular access off of Pagel's Place would be detrimental to service quality in that subdivision. However, with that, we could either do a couple of things. One, as a condition of permit approval for new home starts or construction, We could require as a condition of that permit that construction activity come off of Pagel's Place. So we'd hold the individual contractors responsible for maintaining that. Or two, we could work with the developer and sequence the construction of that connection. So it doesn't happen until the latter part of development. So then you can avoid that construction activity while the development is being built. So at the end of the day, you'd put it in so that you could service that in the event there's an emergency, a fire, or public safety need. But during construction, either the subdivision or the homes, we could delay the construction of that stub. It would be noted in the plans that it's going to happen. It's just going to be delayed to avoid some of that construction activity taking place in Woods Edge.
Good idea. Can you tell me if the houses on 32 to 45 are same size, same price range as Woods Edge Wage?
Yep, bring it back up.
Man, those are some, the houses that are abutting the Woods Edge Way.
Yeah, so, Mike, I don't know if you've been in there, but it's actually pretty spectacularly beautiful along those areas. So price point wise, I seem to think they would probably be a little bit more. It'll probably be driven by, whatever the purchaser of the lot was interested in doing, but that's actually very nice back there. I would think they would certainly be more than, the number I had probably quoted, 425 to 500. I think some of those would be pretty nice in there. Probably not unlike, what's on the other side, of to the south. There's some nice homes in there.
I'm good.
Okay.
I do actually have a question, maybe it's more so for staff. To this point, since this is a private drive, do we even have the right to connect to it?
Ponds Edge Court is a public street,
Right.
so that's a village-owned street. Where it becomes a private street is Misty Meadows Court. Right here is where the condominium actually starts.
Well, then they technically can't get out. Someone could literally just extend into Ponds Edge Court, turn around, and in theory, without violating someone's, ingress, egress, because we're not a part of that, we really couldn't let traffic out of there.
So traffic could traverse down Woods Edge Lane, or Woods Edge Way.
Okay,
Ponds Edge Court, it can't continue, I guess, to the southwest into this Misty Meadows Court subdivision,
I
or a
understand.
condominium.
Okay.
Would there be any way to put in the minutes that Ponds Edge Street could not be connected until, I'm gonna just throw a number out, 75% of the construction is complete on the other side? I like your idea. I like the, we're not, it's gonna go in, but it isn't going in until, the construction starts going down.
Yeah,
Could put that in.
Right. What you can do is you can put it in at the time of final lift of asphalt, which typically is about 75% of the subdivision, give or take. So at that point, you could make the connection and tie it in together with the final lift of asphalt for the subdivision, which is pretty common.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anybody have any comments, questions, concerns?
This property has been brought up a couple times. It's kind of in a island by itself. How do you get traffic in and out? It's been discussed before. We knew that was coming up. I think all your questions were pretty good questions on the traffic issue. I think those can all, my thing is with development, you get traffic, and we want that. I think those things are the reason for the preliminary action we're doing here. So we all know it's a good project. We don't have a lot of land in Ashwaubenon anymore to develop like this. And I think what we're looking for is just a preliminary agreement here. As things work out, I'm sure some of these questions will be answered in favor of all concerned. So if there's no other condition or no other comments, I'll move to approve the preliminary plan unit development on this parcel.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have, is that with staff conditions?
With staff conditions, thanks for remembering me.
Okay, and the second is, okay, so we have a motion by Gary Paul, a second by Jay Krieger to approve the PUD request for parcel VA-L 333-2 with staff conditions. Any other comments, questions?
My only comment is, it's a nice looking development. I'm happy to see it come into Ashwaubenon.
Thank you.
There's only one request, Craig. Could you get it into the Ashwaubenon School District?
I'll see what I can do.
Yeah.
Yeah, work on that one.
Good luck.
Anyway, okay, so
One other question, quick, Mary. Aaron, you said something about De Pere. This whole thing is in Ashwaubenon, isn't it, other than a De Pere school district?
That's correct. It's in Ashwaubenon, West De Pere School District.
Okay, but there's no property in De Pere per se.
No.
Correct.
Okay, all right, understanding. Thank you.
okay, any other questions, comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, everybody. Okay, 8B, consider, discuss, act on ordinance number 09-1-24, amending the definition of medical treatment facility. Mr. Patrick.
A while ago, staff was reviewing an ordinance in Chapter 17 regarding the medical treatment facility and specifically drug and treatment centers. And what I would like to do is, what I forgot to do when we got this new software to put everything up into the boards and committees, it actually automatically approves track changes. So you're seeing in the attachment the actual accepted version. And what I forgot to do is show you the edited version. So best practice when you're doing an ordinance amendment is to show you how it's edited. So I'd like to just show kind of share my screen right now and show you exactly what I'm looking for or looking at. So we kind of are all on the same page here. Jackson, can you go back out on?
Can you expand on what a small scale facility is? Because the way I read it,
I just wanted to pull this up so I can show everybody what I'm looking at. I apologize. Just want to show them yep. Thank you. You can pull this up, Jackson. Thank you. All right. So again, just so we're kind of all on the same page, what you were shown in your packet, and I neglected to realize that after it was already the accepted version. So somewhat of a minor change, but pretty critical, is that this is the word tracked kind of edited version of the ordinance amendment. And really, this is a definition into Chapter 17 of a medical treatment facility. And what you're seeing here is that in the last sentence, specifically the more pertinent part here, which it defines or discusses drug and treatment facilities. So this, how it was previously defined, medical treatment facility, including drug and treatment facilities, is that it stated inpatient facilities, really it said inpatient facilities only. And then the last line, I know it's kind of hard to see, but it says, and which may include outpatient follow-up care to facility patients. So what that means is that medical treatment facility is only inpatient, and those inpatient may also provide outpatient. The staff was reviewing this. We believe that the true intent behind this is that it includes inpatient and outpatient care. That's what a drug and alcohol treatment facility is. So these changes on this, if these track changes are accepted and the ordinance is accepted, the amendment, it'll say inpatient or outpatient care. So again, right now the version says inpatient care, which also may provide outpatient care. So it's only inpatient care, that's it. This version says inpatient or outpatient. So somewhat semantics, I get that. I get it maybe a little bit tomato in a way, I understand that, but it really when you I can't really stress enough how critical a may or an or really might be when you're coming to an ordinance or a statute, and we've discussed that. We've had actually a couple applicants contact Aaron's office and our office and ask if what the like zoning requirements are for things like this. And one thing kind of, some have actual been implemented, some have not, but this is kind of really how when we saw this, and when we saw this, we're saying, well, yeah, we think a drug and alcohol treatment facility, you're providing care to inpatient and outpatient, right? Inpatient, overnight, outpatient, you're just coming for the day. That's what that means. And the original version, we couldn't say it's only outpatient because it's only inpatient. That's it, meaning you're only overnight guests. That's it, only overnight patients. This, simply by putting the word or in there, you're talking about overnight guests and just day-to-day guests. So it really does clean it up in a pretty efficient way. Staff does recommend a change for this, and what we can tell, and what we have told people in the past is basically that we believe this is what the board's intent was, to include both. This one just clarifies that, cleans up this version of the definition, and yeah, it just makes it cleaner.
This is one of those legal things, an and or an or.
Oh, Mary, we could debate the importance of a comma, really, if you really want to.
I've got my law degree in my phone, Patrick.
Right, exactly. The importance of a comma or an or a may or a shall versus may.
Exactly.
So, right, this is one of those things where an or a may is pretty important.
Yes.
So I don't want to bog down the whole commission with legalese and put everybody to sleep, but that's what it is.
Thank you.
I probably ranted enough. Sorry, Jay.
I'll make a motion to recommend the approval of ordinance number 091-24.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Jay Krieger, a second by Chris Atkinson to approve ordinance number 09-1-24. Comments, Mike?
I want to know what the word residence means. Is this residential, one?
Yeah,
Or-
yes,
So someone could put one of these in next to my house.
good. As of right now, the zoning restrictions, go ahead, Aaron, sorry.
I can address that. So under our zoning code, we do have restrictions on where medical treatment facilities can be located. So there could not be a medical treatment facility in your R1 district, for instance. What Patrick is taking care of here is basically helping me do my job in providing better information to these facilities when I'm contacted. And I'll be honest, I've been contacted pretty regularly the last couple of years. So what this does is it clarifies that it can't be located in R1 district. But more importantly, what it does is it helps provide more certainty to me as staff when I provide the information to them on whether they can or cannot locate in a certain location.
How about, what are those, an apartment complex that's not R1, right?
Correct. That's typically be your R3 district.
Could it be-
So again, I can't speak to specifics of where medical treatment facilities are and are not allowed, don't have it in front of me. But that said, your residential districts are typically your residential districts. Now, there could be some flexibility in there, but I believe medical treatment facilities are pretty limited to our commercial districts, possibly our industrial districts. Now, this is separate from like a group home per se, which is a residential use.
R3. Not R1, R3.
A group home, under state law, group home is completely separate. It's a separate issue. It's a residential use. And that's a residential use, a residential use of property. This medical treatment facility cannot locate in a residential area.
Okay, I don't have any problem with approving what he said. I just think you gotta watch out for that word resident.
And I can address a little bit.
To me, it
Mike.
implies it's a residential area.
Right. No, I want to, I guess, just caution the commission. Aaron and I actually discussed this last week. We are looking into it a little bit more in the terms of other zoning requirements or issues that might come up. So again, in the future, this might be presented to you again regarding some different zoning restrictions, clarifications, things like that. But as of right now, we just thought this is the easiest thing to do before we look into it. And the reason why we don't bring a lot forward to the commission and in the future, the board, now, is because there's just a little bit more research that has to go into this, because we're dealing with, I guess, drug and treatment facilities. They might be protected under certain, well, I don't want to get into it right now, really, but too much of the research goes into it. But we just wanted to look into it to see really what we can and cannot do when it comes to zoning restrictions.
And one other thing to keep, so we are going through our comp plan right now. Economic development next month, guaranteed. But when we finish up the comprehensive plan, at that point, then we'll be doing a deep dive into our zoning code and making wholesale updates to it, because it's necessary. In a situation like this, you may have confusions about the term, residence is legitimate, and we can address it at that time. What we're dealing with right now is some pretty timely requests that have come in, that we've been able to basically provide information and say, here's what the restrictions are. This beefs up our ability to control where they locate.
So just to add, was able, as you guys were speaking, pull up the use table that's in our present zoning code. So a medical treatment facility is considered a healthcare facility under our code. So this medical treatment facility further defines, or is a definition within a healthcare facility. So a healthcare facility could be a number of things, and one of those things could be a medical treatment facility. So a medical treatment facility on the use table is permitted in the B3, B4, SE districts, and village center districts. So sports entertainment, village center, as well as the business, the BP district. So no R1, RE, R2, or R3 districts is a medical treatment facility permitted use.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions? Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve this ordinance. Any other comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Thank you. Number 9, items for next agenda. Will we have items?
Yes, well, the comp plan for sure, economic development chapter, possibly community facilities. So we'll have that for sure, and I'm anticipating a couple other items as well.
Okay. Number 10, we need to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
A motion by Chris Atkinson, seconded up by Jay Krieger to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed. Motion carried. We are done.